7 o'clock.
It's 7 o'clock.
All right.
We are recording.
You ready to go? Yep. All right, we're going to call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order on May 18th, 2022. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Camo is here. Alderman Gavea.
Here.
Alderman Clemmons.
Here.
Alderwoman Timmons. Alderman Moran. Alderman Clee.
Here.
And Mayor Dunches.
I'm here, and Alderman Moran texted me to say that he could not make it tonight. I believe we also have on Zoom Alderman Jetty, I think Alderman Tebow. As far as aldermen go, I think that's it, but if there's anyone else, please speak up. All right, first item on the agenda is public comment. Do any members of the public wish to address the committee?
Yes.
Please step up. Name and address, please.
Thank you. My name is Roy Tilsley. I'm an attorney with Bernstein Shore in Manchester at 670 North Commercial Street. I'm here tonight on behalf of Community Media Services Group, LLC. I'm joined by Dick Gagnon and Dan Young, who operate Nashua's Public Access P channel and have operated successfully for the last 10 years. I'm here regarding, item 3 on your communications list, which is the public access television operations contract, as well as a letter at the bottom of that list that I submitted in response to that. We're asking you to reject the recommendation of the Cable Television Advisory Board recommending the bid proposal from BRB TV LLC. We're asking you to reject that recommendation for 2 reasons. Number 1, we are the low bidder on this contract. The BRB TV contract is $506,800 over 3 years. That is $35,000 a year more than the city is currently paying my client. Our proposal at $145,000 a year with 5% increases annually would be $456,750 over 3 years, a nearly $50,000 savings. Plus, a transition to a new provider will involve 2 or 3 months of overlapping fees as the operation is handed off from my client to a new provider. It's very clear from section 5-78A of your ordinances that major purchases such as this should be purchased from the lowest responsible bidder. My client is the lowest responsible bidder on this particular contract. The ordinance section 5-78H indicates that when a contract is not given to the lowest bidder, a full and complete statement of all reasons shall be presented by the purchasing manager. All I've seen is a 1-sentence reason in the cover letter in your packet, which indicates that the vendor who best presented a proposal for channel growth was chosen. That is not a full and complete statement. And as best I can tell from the bid packet, channel growth was not one of the criteria that Ctab was supposed to be looking at. Not only has my client the lowest bidder on this particular contract, but my client has a 10-year track.
30 seconds.
Thank you. A 10-year track record of providing quality public access channel to the city of Nashua. The record reveals absolutely no complaints about my client's operation of the channel for 10 years. As the lowest bidder, quality operator, providing a quality product, my client should have gotten this contract, and I've urged the board to reverse the decision of Ctab and award it to my client. Thank you.
Thank you. Other members of the public wish to address the committee? Please, and I'm sure you're aware of this, but just give your name and address.
Yes, Fred T. Boom, 24 Cheyenne. It's been quite a while since I've been here. Look, a lot of changes. Look very nice. Comfortable seats. This board is one of my favorites when I was in Alderman Finance Committee. I wasn't going to mention this, but on page 41 of your package is actually a set of spreadsheets of the costs. And the attorney mentioned that he's a low bidder. Actually, I've looked at both proposals, and the first year of the contract that the attorney represents assumes that there'll be a city employee that actually supports the contract. So if you put into account the costs and the benefits of the city employee, it's not really the lowest contract. But you don't have to pick even the lowest contract. But that's not why I came to speak. I came to speak because I have a great interest in public access channel. I had a lot to do with building the studio, those of you who know me, going back 15 years. I had a lot to do with bringing about the P channel that some aldermen opposed. Now, I'm a senior now, so I like to sit in my easy chair, pick up my Roku, not have to go with a quirky website of the city, because I have streaming, I don't get Comcast, and get my Roku and bring up the streaming channel. Now, they all stream. But if you take a look at the videos that are posted, the government channel has 168 videos posted of archaic, archives. Yes, you look a lot younger on one of those. The E channel has 283 videos posted. Guess how many the P channel has, the collector's channel? One archive video channel, going back to 2019, 3 years ago. That needs to be modernized. And what I like about the other proposal, they promised a lot of innovation. And it's mentioned, I won't go through it, I don't have time, but they intend to put a studio in the Performance Arts Center. They have a news channel they propose to bring, new stuff. It's true, the current
30
operator
seconds.
is a good operator. I know Dick Gannon very well. I've been hosting some of his programs. But folks, when all you have is one D channel, video channel, and the others have 200 or more, it's time for a change. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public? Please come forward.
Hello, my name's Carl Seidel, and I came to talk about this Channel 96.
Now, just for the record, your address, please.
Oh, my address is 39 Pilgrim Circle in Nashua. I came because I consider Channel 96 the people's voice. It's a public access channel. Everybody has been very well served by the current management, and we sent a number of comments to the hearing that was held by the advisory committee, and none of them were really read because they just skipped it. I'd like to say that I've been having a program for 10 years. I think it's a very important way to get out the voice of a number of people who have concerns. This is what it was put up for. I think we ought to keep it that way. I didn't hear any comments over those 10 years about why there should be a change. Now, the only thing I can see is that there's some kind of cost estimate that's going to be evaluated. I don't know what the value of that is, but whatever, I think we have to keep the format the same and allow people to voice their comments. That's the only way you have. You have other channels for education, for any of the other legislative opportunities that we have in the city. So I think that we at least have to have a bigger hearing because the last one was too quick. Not enough people were allowed to attend and voice their choice for that. Thank you.
Any other members of the public wish to address the committee?
Lori Ortolano, 41 Berkeley Street. Just with regard to the contract, if channel growth was in there and modernization and upgrading, hopefully the bid contract specified what you were looking for so that both parties or all parties submitted what you were looking for and that they didn't believe that the same was what you were looking for because the low bid would be the winner. I mean, I didn't see the contract and read it, but I do think that's important. And I do think if modernization and upgrading was what you were looking for, then, and you picked who you picked for that, fine. But as long as the contract specified that for all parties, what the criteria was, that's very important. So if channel growth and upgrading and modernization was part of the contract, so be it. I am concerned, and I just want to state, there was a bunch of information in the packet regarding how we're going to rebrand and legitimize the station, develop diverse bilingual shows, weekly interview shows with Department of Health, DPW, NPD, NFD, BOA, mayor, city departments. I want to make certain that we are allowing programming that speaks to the diversity of thought in the city, that it doesn't become a single party television station, I want to make certain when boards go on, first of all, if you have enough members of the boards, you have a meeting, and that when boards go on, that they don't become a political platform. I want rules written, like what happens during candidate season when we register new people to run for office in September. Do those board members that are maybe coming back get greater access time because they're already on the board to pitch what they've done, and newer candidates aren't going to have a voice who are there? I want to make certain that we represent all the views of the city, and that, Republican views, Democratic views, and independent views are accessed. If the Department of Health comes on, terrific, but get some people on who speak about, not wanting to vaccinate children or not believing masks are effective. Let those voices be heard. Would you entertain a program on Right to Know? What is open access information? What does the public need to know about that information? I just want to make certain that it doesn't become a political station for a single party, that we have plenty of city diversity in the programming that we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please come forward.
Hello. My name is Harvey Key. I live in Nashua, New Hampshire.
And your street address?
I just simply want to tell you how proud I am to be a citizen of this great city. And much of this great city started when I came here about 50 years ago. And there was a welcome wagon that came to my door and welcomed us with a whole bunch of stuff from business people, invited us and embraced us like we belong here. And I've felt that way ever since I've been here. I happen to have I was on George Russell's big time show in downtown Nashua. We reached a lot of people saying a lot of nice things. Then I got a promotion. George said he was responsible for that. I got to be with the television station, which my show is called Nashua Strong. And if any of you want to see how I work hard to make this city stronger, tune into Nashua Strong by Harvey Key. I'm so proud of this city, and I just hope that whatever you do with this television station, that it continues to grow and make this city what I expect it to be, one of the greatest cities in the state of New Hampshire. Thank you so much, and watch my show. It's called Nashua Strong.
Now, Mr. Key, could you give us your street address, please?
My street address?
Yes.
Yeah, I live at 4 Tamworth Place in Nashua, New Hampshire. The zip is 03063.
Thank you very much. Other people wish to address the board? The committee?
Good evening. My name is Christopher Felix. I live at 113 East Hollis Street. I'm a resident of Nashua, New Hampshire. I've worked with the Access Channel, and our show is about diversity. And it's about music and bringing together a bunch of people from all over New Hampshire who does music, R&B, hip hop, country, rock. And we have brought a lot of light to the city of Nashua, thanks to Dan and Dick back there, of diversity with this station. We have done things where we teamed up with this girl who suffers from cancer, and we've done things in the community from the station on letting them speak their story and express themselves with everybody in Nashua, New Hampshire. And we also have, like he said, we have the access channel with the links and stuff like that. So we've reached a lot of people and touched a lot of people from Nashua with music and given them the insight to speak their story, because we don't focus on major artists. We focus on the little guys, the guys coming from right here, the rock band that plays right at Panucci's, you know what I mean? And we've had them down, give guitar lessons on the show to teach kids and other diversities of how to do music, how to go to the studio, how to make a printout about their work that they've done. And I'm very grateful, and I hope you guys come to a good decision, whatever it is. I believe Dan and Dick have been doing a great job on creating diversity for the station in the city of Nashua, New Hampshire. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the committee?
Good
Name and
evening.
address, please.
Yep, Chris Daywaz. I actually live in Hollis, but run American Medical Response, which is the ambulance provider for the city of Nashua. I've been on Access TV a number of different times, and I've always been very pleased with the work that the folks do there to get the message out. Particularly, I'm sure you've seen me talking about opioids and other things within the city. I've also been on WSMN with George and Bob, and I'm here tonight to speak to support for their bid. What actually caught my attention the most was their proposal to put a studio, if you will, inside the new Performing Arts Center, which I think is a phenomenal idea and would be wonderful for the city. But most of all, I think George and Bob would bring a fresh face of ideas to a community that I have grown up in and lived in most of my life. And I think that they would do a fine job in expanding the opportunities that people have to communicate in the city and be aware of what's going on in the city. Without a newspaper anymore, it's very difficult to understand when things are happening or what's going on, and I think that their new approach would bring a wonderful way to do that. So I support their selection and hope that you do too.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Staywaz, could you give us either your business or your residential address just by street?
Sure, it's 380 West Hollis Street here in Nashua. And I haven't
Thank you.
retired, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to address the committee?
Good evening. My name is Steve Buxton, Fire Chief, City of Nashua. 70 East Hall Street is the address. So I sit on the Ctab committee, and I actually sat in on both the interviews as a subcommittee of that group. During the interviews, both of the parties that bid on it brought very different energies to the table. BRB brought what I would call a more vibrant and modern energy to the table, and that is basically what I based my decision on. They had some great ideas to modernize local access television. They brought a great energy, a lot of ideas. The individuals involved have a strong work ethic. They were successful in resurrecting a local radio station that was, down and out, and they've brought it back to have quite a bit of programming that a lot of locals are allowed to go on and spread their word. So I believe it would be a wise investment to afford them the opportunity they are seeking with the local access television. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other member of the public wish to address the committee? Yes. And again, you know this, but name and address, please.
Yes, thank you. I would have probably forgot that. My name is Ken Gidge. I'm from Nashua, 22 Hayden Street. I've lived here my whole life so far. My family has probably lived in Nashua for 125 years, all in Ward 6, poor Ward 6. I come here with a unique experience, or kind of different, I think, point of view. Probably about 10 years ago, we only had 2 channels. We had an educational channel, and we had a government channel, like this would be the government channel. We did not have a channel where we could give a public access. In other words, anybody could do a show and turn around, no matter what it was. And as long as there were rules of language, et cetera, and topics. It was awful. The argument that took place that night, it's like the alderman just didn't want to do it. It got so bad, they turned off the sound, and then they pointed the camera high. And the reason, away from where nobody could see what was going on. And the reason, quite simply, was that at that very night, they were going to sign a contract to Comcast. And that meant we were only going to have 2 channels. We wanted a 3rd channel. There were 3 of us. As a matter of fact, Fred T. Boone was one of the individuals. We wanted 3 channels. After all, Londonderry had something like 6 channels. But for some reason, the alderman didn't want to do it. Finally, Steve Bolton turned and said to the individual who was running the cable board at that time, anybody come to the meetings? They had 3 meetings, and he said no, and I said, no, I was there twice. So Steve said, okay, let's not vote on it tonight, let's look at it. But what happened was, obviously Comcast, excuse me, wanted the contract, and to give us another channel was not a big deal. They gave it to us. It
30
took about
seconds.
5 years to finance it, and thanks to Donnelly Lozo, it was financed. I and a few other people did one of the very first shows there. I did about 50 hours of broadcasting from that station, the television station. I had done 8 years of talk radio, so thinking TV, the change wouldn't
Time.
be a big deal.
Oh, you have a 3-minute limit, which just,
Pardon me?
there's a 3-minute limit which you just reached.
I didn't know that.
Can you give us one more sentence?
Yes, I'll just say one more thing. If you were to give the station to the people who are most qualified, and it would run properly, you would give it back to the people who are now running it. 2 years of what these people have gone through trying to keep the TV station working. What they've gone through has been awful, and so people have taken advantage of that. But these people are more qualified than anyone to run the station. We're coming up to a point where
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
we're coming up to the point where we're going to have the Arts Center, and I think it's very important that we have the proper people running it. I'm sorry if I've taken up too much time. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else from the public? Now, just to remind you, name and address, you're limited to 3 minutes, so.
Why do you say that to me?
Because Mr. Gidge
I'm kidding, I'm
had
kidding.
forgotten about that.
I do radio for a living, I'm kidding. My business is located at 196 Main Street. My name is George Russell. I'm the owner and operator, broadcaster of WSMN, and an owner and participant in BRB TV, and our bid and proposal to help the public access television station come to the next level. As was spoken before, we did take a dark, very dark radio station and built it into what it is now, which was a lot of work and a lot of manpower and hours, which we are now FM. We have a state-of-the-art studio overlooking downtown Main Street. And we thought that by participating in bidding for the public access television, we could bring that to viewership that's comparable to what the radio is. And it does not happen by having people sit in a studio that are technically advanced more than the next to run cameras and wait for people to knock on the door to get a television show. It takes people to be on the ground like we were with the radio, inviting them to come on and have a show. We believe in education, entertainment, everything that's on that station right now will not go away. We want to increase viewership by increasing programming, and that is going to take people with a tremendous amount of energy and work ethic that does not stop from 9 to 5. And we are very excited about the opportunity. Our proposal is strong. We are bringing people with experience, with a 25-year retired man from NBC television in New York City. Carolyn Choate and Gordon ran Channel 13. They are on my team. They have more experience than anybody in TV next to WMUR. So it takes a team to do a thing, and it's all of us. I'm just the one that said, let's give it a shot. We have a very strong team. We've also, let it be noted, spoke way before we put the proposal in with Dick, who I have worked with, to say, hey, why don't you be part of the team? We can do this together. We can really make this happen, because after all, it's about the city and letting the people know that they have a television station that they can be on, which is why we also will use the radio to promote that. And by casting out that web, I'm sure we can increase programming, and you'll be very proud, not that you might not be now, but even more proud when the objective is to get that place viewed as much as WMUR, and I am very capable of making that happen. Thank you. We look forward to the opportunity.
Thank you. Now, on Zoom, we see, Alderman Como pointed out that Scott McCullough has raised his hand. So can you, Scott, come on Zoom and give your name and address, and then give us your remarks limited to 3 minutes. I think you're on mute.
We can't hear you, Scott.
He unmuted himself.
Scott, we still can't hear you. All right, well, we cannot hear Mr. McCullough, and maybe you can do something there in your home with your computer to make it so that we can hear you? Because I don't think we do not have you muted on this end. Or is there something we can do?
I don't think so. It shows that he's unmuted here.
All right. Well, while we're trying to work on that technical problem, is there any other member of the public who wishes to address the committee?
Sure, Richard Gagnon from CMSG. My home address is 28 Rochambeau Street in Manchester. Really, it's Goffstown, but it's Manchester mailing. I'd just like to inform the committee what the purpose of public access is all about. You know, we heard from George and a couple others about producing shows for DPW and the government and the education channel and so forth. That's not what public access is all about. Public access is for us to assist the public in producing their own shows. We're not out there, we're not a production company to go out and produce this show or that show. We assist the public with the technical knowledge that we have in order for them to produce their show the way they want, the content they want, because that's what public access is. For us to go and produce something for DPW, my first question is, why? We have a government channel. That's what the government channel's set for. Education. You know, for us to go and do a show about, Nashua North, no, that's the education channels. Public access is strictly for the public to get their thoughts and opinions out into the world. And just a quick note about the budget. I want to correct a good friend, Fred T. Boom, when he talked about our budget included, the city hiring a studio director and taking that out of our budget. If any of you had seen our proposal and read the 4 budget proposals that we gave, budget proposal 1 was, as it is now, with Dan, myself, and Holland, our editor, and producing the shows the way we're doing it and so forth.
30 seconds.
That was $145,000. That really is our lowest. There were 3 other options, where we wanted to add a news director so we could have a news show. But listening to Ctab meeting, if you go back and listen to it, they weren't for that. The having a studio director, that also was kind of kiboshed as well.
All
So
right,
therefore,
so
the
Mr.
number
Gagnon,
was
there is a 3.
145. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any other member of the public wish to address the committee? All right. If not, we'll go on to communications. Now, before we get to those on the agenda, we did get a letter from Attorney Tilsley, and I think we should just accept that and place it on file so we have it part of the record. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Alderman Como, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have a communication from Bobby Bagley, Public Health Director. Alderman Como. Oh, we have, well, we're going to make a motion first, right? Oh, okay. I understood that there was going to be, well, Nicole Shute is here to address this, right?
Hi, Mayor. Yes, I'm here.
All right, well, we're going to accept the letter and with no objection, place it on file. And could you, Ms. Shute, please address the subject, please?
Yep. So tonight we're asking to put through our contract for our annual billboards with Outfront Media. The intent of our billboards is to promote health information and awareness of our services through mass communication to the public. I just wanted to mention that this was tabled last meeting in response to Alderman Melbourne's question of us using evidence-based messaging. And I just wanted to clarify to the public that we use health promotion, social and behavioral health models that address primary prevention efforts. And mass communication is one of those evidence-based methods used to communicate information to our population. All of our messaging that we use, it is researched, and then the content is created and reviewed by our staff, as well as subject matter experts for the specific topics. Included in this contract, we do have 4 billboard locations, changing each billboard message 3 times per year. And I just wanted to mention that the first quarter, we do plan to run a billboard on blood pressure and pre-diabetes risk, importance of the COVID vaccination, and lead poisoning prevention for children. And all of our billboards do have a message and a call to action on them.
All right, Ms. Shute, now, I should have asked you at the beginning, could you please just clarify your position with the Public Health Department?
Oh, yes, sorry. I'm the Health Promotion and Communications Specialist.
And as I understand it, this is grant funded, and you were asked this question at the last Finance Committee meeting.
Yep, so there was a question about why there are billboards in the Greater Nashua region. It is because we do have funding that comes down through the state that requires us to provide services to the Greater Nashua region, and that's why there's a billboard in there for Merrimack and Milford, as well as Nashua.
All right, any members of the committee have other follow-up or discussion or questions? Alderwoman Clee.
Just a point of order here, Mr. Mayor, this is one of the last items on the agenda. It was a tabled item, so we really need to take it off the table. I think we just wanted to accept the communication and then later on remove it from the table. The last meeting, we placed it on the table, so if you look at page 3 of the...
Yes. All right, well, because Ms. Shute is on the
Right.
call, and there could be some lengthy discussion here, or what, is it all right if you address any questions you have to Ms. Shute now so that she doesn't have to wait through the whole meeting?
I just want to clarify, the alderman who requested that this get tabled is not here at the moment, but I do think that all of his questions were answered by Ms. Shute, so I feel comfortable with this, removing it off the table first and then asking questions, if that's okay.
Oh, you want to take it now? Well, let's.
We can move it
let's-
forward if you want to while she's here, seeing we've already started it this way. I believe we'll probably have to, because it's part of the tabled in committee part. We can discuss it now, but don't we have to have the motion?
Eventually, yes.
Okay.
Are there any questions for Ms. Shute? Alderman Gouveia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this might be answered, I'm not too sure, but it's more on the finance side of it, not so much what we're paying for. But it says the $51,159.30 that come from grants in the $38,5070 that come from the city's general fund. I'm just wondering, is that money from the general fund, is that needed to get these grants, or how is that calculated? Because between a $55,000 promotion and a $51,000 promotion is really not a big difference. I'm wondering why we need to dip into the general fund for that money.
Ms. Shute?
Unfortunately, I do not have the answer for that. I'm not sure if there's someone from finance that might have that answer, that worked with Bobby on that.
All right, any other questions? We may be able to get that question answered between now and the next meeting. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Ms. Shute. We will get to this later, but I believe all of the issues that you could discuss have been discussed. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is a communication from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Camo.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award the contract to upgrade the audio and visual equipment in the Training and Safety Division classroom and library at the Fire Department to CCS Presentation Systems of Nashua, New Hampshire, in an amount not to exceed $35,553.68. Funding through Department 152 Fire Rescue, Fund 71000, Equipment/PEIPP Trust.
Mr. Buxton, are you here on this?
Yes.
Please just give us a brief explanation.
Good evening, Steve Buxton, Nashua Fire, and this is Bill Atkinson, the Assistant Chief, Nashua Fire. So our training classroom is located at 177 Lake Street. It was opened in 1998. Soon thereafter, we received a grant that we outfitted it with AV equipment that allowed us to broadcast to the other stations so we could perform training, so on and so forth. This location is utilized by ourselves for training, our Board of Fire Commission meetings, public education classes, and others throughout the community. Most recently, NPD's been occupying this space to hold some trainings and commission meetings as well, as they have an HVAC program going on over at their building. During COVID, we stood up an incident management team, and this was the center for it. And very early on, as we were all learning about Zoom and all these other new platforms that we use daily now, we realized how inefficient and outdated our AV equipment had become, and we were unable to communicate from there with it. As we were working through it, we researched to see what would be needed to update the equipment. We eventually requested proposals, received bids, and the funding will come from the Fire Rescue PEIPP Fund. And just so you know, that fund is donations that have come from private entities within our community to help us educate the public in injury prevention, fire prevention, so on and so forth.
All right.
So that's the nuts and the bolts of it. If you have any technical questions, Chief Atkinson would be able to answer them for you.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a communication from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Camo.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award the contract for the management, operation, and coordination of the CTV studio and Channel 96 to BRB TV LLC in an amount not to exceed $506,800 for a 3-year total. funding through Department Community Television, Fund 55699, Other Contracted Services /PEG Access Channel Special Revenue Fund.
Thank you. Now, Attorney Tilsley's letter raised procedural issues regarding the process that was used to consider this proposal. I know Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager, is on the call. Could you please address, with respect to the Nashua ordinances, the process that was used by the committee, the advisory committee, to consider these proposals?
Yes, this is Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager. We did put it out to an RFP, which does allow for criteria other than purely cost to be the determining factor. And we outlined in the RFP what those factors would be for Ctab to weigh and come up with a score as to who was the best fit for the contract. We did also, in our pre-bid meeting, we had quite a bit of discussion around what we were looking for the channel, for it to progress a little bit, and we referred both participants that were at that pre-bid meeting to go back and review the December 2021 Ctab meeting, because there was a pretty lengthy discussion at that meeting as well, as to what we were looking for in a proposal. We did make it very clear that cost was not the number one determining factor as to who this bid was going to go to.
And for the uninitiated, you use the term RFP.
It's a request for proposal. In competitive bidding, there are several different options in how to receive proposals, how to request proposals. One is called an IFB, which is a invitation for bid. And on an invitation for bid, it is purely cost driven. The lowest responsible bidder receives that award in an IFB. And a request for proposal, you're really judging the proposal as a whole, not just the cost. You're judging the quality of the proposal, what you're getting, what they want to do with it. You're not defining how to do something in your RFP. You're letting them come to you with how they want to do it. And it is, the evaluation criteria is both technical and cost factors, but it's mostly, it's a combination of the both. It's not just cost.
And is it your opinion that the committee, in considering these proposals, complied with city ordinances?
It is my opinion. I was not at the Ctab meeting, but I did watch it after the meeting. I was not also part of the interviews, which is not at all uncommon. It's pretty common with the city that the project lead is leading the interview and vendor selection. My role is really to put out the bid and make sure that the ordinances are being followed and that we're complying as best we can.
Thank you. Do members of the committee have questions or comments of Ms. Parkinson? Alderwoman Clee.
Oh, no, I don't have of Ms. Parkinson. I do have another comment for after, so yes.
I believe, but while we have Ms. Parkinson here on the issue of compliance, is there she'll remain on the call, but is there anybody who wants to ask anything about that now? If not, we'll bring up Ms. Kleiner, I believe, and who will present the committee's position.
Good evening, Kim. I'll take this off. You'll never hear me. Kim Kleiner, Director of Administrative Services, and I'm here with Andrew Sonata, who is the chairman of the Cable Advisory, Television Advisory Board. This has been a very long process. We actually started this process last summer. We knew the contract needed to be renewed. The contract had gone for a long time of yearly renewals, year after year, but had not been looked at in over 10 years. Community Media Services, which has done a tremendous job, came forward with a new proposal and asked the city to consider taking one of their employees onto the city and changing the proposal and the contract that had previously existed quite drastically. The Ctab board discussed that in the fall of 2021. We discussed their proposal, and there was some discussion on how we should actually proceed. In November, and again, these are all public meetings, there was discussion on should we actually consider going out for a request for proposals, especially considering the length of time that there had been since the initial, and considering that the current vendor was bringing forward what were pretty specific changes. A letter was issued to CMSG to terminate and continue on a month-to-month agreement. In all cases, this has been a process where there has been a lot of input. So there is Attorney Sonata and the board who operate, and most of the board is your city directors. There's Mr. Poner, there's Mr. Johnson, that sit in and give the board technical advice. And then we brought in Ms. Parkinson for the development of the RFP. The Ctab committee had specific weigh-in on the RFP, although we had Ms. Parkinson's expertise. The Ctab committee reviewed it and gave specific input before it was released. And so in February it was released, and as you heard from Ms. Parkinson, we had a pre-proposal meeting. We met both CMSG and BRB TV were there. We discussed vendors' questions, we answered vendors' questions, and ultimately proposals were due February 24th. From there, proposals were reviewed by the Ctab Advisory Board, and interviews were scheduled with each of the candidates. Interview notes from those interviews, because the interview committees was not the whole Ctab board, and that's noted in the correspondence that came to you. That is correct. That is common. When you have a board that large, it's very hard to get all the members together for the interviews. So the Ctab committee asked members to volunteer. And those members interviewed and then made notes and made those available for the Ctab board. Ultimately, April 1st, there was a vote of the Ctab board to recommend to the city to accept the proposal by BRB TV. Ms. Parkinson's correct when she says that this was really a look, and if you go back and you look at the minutes of the Ctab meetings, you'll find that the committee was very focused on how we move the station forward for the future. While we certainly are looking at fiscal oversight and management oversight, we were also looking at modernization and how programming really cultivates what we find important in Nashua. is it representative of our community? And BRB TV had some very innovative ways. And not only was that driven in their proposal, but it's also been driven in how they have progressed in the community. It's well documented, you can see it, in how they've handled the radio station and how they've handled their businesses and their relationships going forward. So that, all these things, then the proposal was in your packet, so I certainly won't go through it. I'll turn to Chair Sonata in case he has anything he'd like to share, but we are asking for your approval of the contract with BRB TV in the total of $506,800. That is reflected in the PEG access budget, which you will see next week.
Now, Mr. Sonata, or Ms. Kleiner, are there other members of the Ctab committee here, and if so, would you mind introducing them?
Chief Buxton is a member, and I think he might be the only member that we have with us.
Okay, thank you.
Nick.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Misevich?
Nick Miservich is also a member.
In the front row?
Who's
Is there
behind the
anything
podium.
is there anything that you would like to add?
I think that the main thing that I would like to add is it was mentioned that bringing or developing the station wasn't part of the RFP. It was mentioned in council's remarks earlier. That exact language, perhaps not, but it's always been a core function of the operator of the public access channel to identify, recruit, and support producers of material. And that is central to the idea that we're going to develop the channel. The development of the channel means having programming that is attractive to viewers. I mean, it's very easy for us to quantify how many producers there are or how many programs are put on the public access channel at any given time. It's difficult for us to identify how many viewers we actually have, so it's a bit of speculation. But having a broad range of material that's offered, and having a broad range of producers that are being recruited by the provider, it's those networks that help bring viewers in who might not otherwise be inclined to watch a public access channel. And the value to the city of a public access channel is not just in providing an outlet or a forum for citizens to produce programming, but also for members of the community to see it and be present for it as viewers. And so it's quite important to have that ability to engage outside of just providing technical support for existing producers or identifying the occasional producer that comes to you. And well, I have a great deal of respect for community television, the incumbents. The committee as a whole, I think had a consensus that BRB had different networks and different capacities to be able to have that outreach. I think that's a fair assessment.
All right, do committee members have questions, comments? Alderwoman Klee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you both for coming in and speaking here. I can tell you that when I saw this contract, I did reach out to Director Kleiner and I asked her a number of questions, and she reminded me that this was an RFP and not an IFB. And therefore, the low bid did not matter, which did make me feel much better. Couple of comments that had been made. One was concern that we shouldn't change because there would be a cost to change. I have to say that that kind of concerns me. If we're not willing to put a cost to change, then we're just basically gonna stay the same old, same old. And I don't mean this to be reflective of the current, because I think they're doing a great job. But then we end up with a monopoly, and we never change because it's gonna cost a little bit more money. I think we have to change with the way the community does. But I do have a question. One of the comments that were made about education programming. When we talk about education programming and so on, we're not talking about Nashua North necessarily. We're talking about possibly doing educational style programming. Is that what the thinking is on that? Either one of you? Director Kleiner, yeah?
Yes, so during the interviews, BRB TV indicated that they would like to bring some educational programming. And one of the examples they used was for people that may have dyslexia, or people that are hearing impaired, or people that, you know, I just lost the third one that they gave us. But that was the type of educational programming that they brought forward then, and I believed that's what they were more interested in. They were certainly aware that we have the government channel and the educational channel. I don't think that's not to say that we don't have some form of educational programming on the Channel 96 now. So when I think of things like Director Bagley and the public health team get out there, and they certainly do some things around vaccinations and some things about public health, you know, and that is a form of education, public health education. And so, you know, I think to say education is just one channel and not the other is a little concerning.
Thank you, and if I may?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I do like to see change sometimes. Sometimes I'm a stick in the mud and I like same old, same old. But when it comes to our community itself is changing, I think changing the style of programming that we do. I do enjoy the programming that's there. I do watch the repeats, as I mentioned to Chairman Sonata. So I do appreciate that when I can't watch it, when it's happening. And I hope that does continue with the new group. But I do want to see change. I do think that new blood, such as what Mr. Russell and so on will bring, is a good idea. So I do appreciate that, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Alderman Govea.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question to go back to something you said earlier. So there's no way to track performance or ratings on these stations, so it's kind of more flying blind, if you will?
Yes, the Nielsen company doesn't rate our public access, and we have some visibility on who watches our streaming, but as it's been noted, there's limited archiving of the streamed public access as opposed to government or education. So that's, as I say, the actual metrics are difficult on that. I think that the general expectation is it's relatively low compared to professional, of course, produced programming from networks or whatever. But yeah, there's no ratings as such. And that's why the annual surveys that were discussed in the proposals provide some feedback. And we do, at our meetings, receive reports as far as how much programming is generated and produced.
Go ahead.
One follow-up if I can. So you would say that really the performance indicators are mostly off of surveys and then the programming you're putting out?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Camo.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to ask about something that was mentioned a couple of times earlier tonight regarding programming. It was mentioned that there could be potentially like shows with the BOA, DPW, things like that. Is there any reason why they would need to use Channel 96 as opposed to the government channel to do those types of programmings?
I think that there's probably some overlap. I think certainly programs like that often are shown on the government channel, or at least potentially could. We have actually increased the amount of government meetings that have been broadcast, so there is a capacity issue there. Generally speaking, there isn't a capacity issue on the public access side of things. Usually it's a matter of the providers having to seek and solicit producers. So if there are programs that might have a government tie-in, they could be broadcast on the government channel. They could also be broadcast on the public channel, assuming that a Nashua resident wants to sponsor them, and very often the government employee or who would be behind that would qualify for that, so.
Go ahead.
So I just had a second question, also regarding programming. Under the new contract that we're talking about, who would, either a person or department, commission, whichever, who would have the ultimate say on whether or not a program would be approved? Or it was mentioned earlier something along the lines of, topics that were appropriate. Who would be the one that decides whether or not a program would be allowed to air?
The provider, the contractor would, in the first instance, be the person to decide that. The contract does restrict them to that they have to follow the federal constitutional limits as far as how much interference they can have in viewpoint discussions. So obviously the First Amendment would have to apply, and they're contractually required to that. So I would imagine that it would be, the city would then, if there were complaints that viewpoints were being discriminated against, the city would need to step in as part of the contractee to intervene if that is being abused.
Great, thank you.
I mean, I assume in that instance, that complaint would be referred to the Ctab committee and discussed and.
I'm sure we would be
There.
involved, yes. I suspect that since most people know the office phone number for the mayor's office first, you might hear about it before we do.
But Andrew, I know your phone number.
Exactly.
That's who I would call. Anyone else? Any discussion, questions? All right, well, the pending motion is to approve the contract as to BRB TV as recommended by the Ctab committee. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Before Mr. Cernata leaves, I'd like to say that he has been the chair of the Ctab committee for a dozen years?
I don't know if it's a full dozen.
10 at least, and he's done a great job, so he deserves the community's thanks. So thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Next communication, Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Camo.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve the Energy Recovery Generator 3-year maintenance contract with Southworth Milton Incorporated, Milton Cat of Milford, Mass, in an amount not to exceed $277,014.06. Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater, Fund Wastewater, Account Classification 54, Property Services.
All right, I believe Mr. Boucher is on the
Thank you,
Zoom.
Mr. Mayor. Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent. So the wastewater facility recently finished the energy recovery upgrade at the facility. This upgrade consisted of the installation of two 225 kilowatt Caterpillar generators. The generators run on methane gas, which is a byproduct of our sludge treatment process. The heat from these generators are reclaimed and used to heat the sludge in our 1.3 million gallon sludge digester. Any extra power that we have, that we produce, is used to offset the cost of our main facility through the net metering program with Eversource. So the money being requested is for a 3-year contract with Southwest Milton Cat. Over the next 3 years, they would do all the preventive maintenance services on the generator, all the warranty services, some of the services that are needed are oil changes, oil testing. They do internal inspections of the generator. This money also includes a major overhaul that's usually required in years between 2 and 3. So I can answer any questions.
Questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next, we have another communication from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Camo.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve a 3-year contract for general engineering services for the City of Nashua's landfills covering fiscal year 23 through fiscal year 25 at an annual cost not to exceed $220,000 to Sanborn Head and Associates of Concord, New Hampshire, pending approval of the fiscal year 23 operating budget. The terms of this contract will be from July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2025. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste, Fund Solid Waste, Account Classification 53, Professional and Technical Services.
And we have Mr. LaFleur.
Superintendent Solid Waste. Engineering contract, as it states, for the landfill. They take care of all of our closed landfill permitting. Any questions from DES, they respond to. They work on some of our groundwater testing, air monitoring, and basically DES,
He's cutting in and out.
on my end.
Something, your sound cut out for a little bit there. Well, we can't hear you now. We kind of intermittently can hear you. I think we got the point, though. Any questions for Mr. LaFleur? Alderman Clemmons.
I don't have a question for Superintendent, but I have a question procedurally. So this basically, this contract, the way that the motion was worded, this contract becomes effective upon passage of the budget this year. Is that correct?
Correct.
Am I reading that correct?
Correct.
So now I hope everything goes as planned, but I'm wondering, I guess maybe this might come back. So what happens if the budget doesn't pass by July 1st? Does this contract here get affected at all?
Well, I think in that instance, Mr. LaFleur would ask that the contractor agree to wait to see if the budget passes with funds sufficient to pay for it.
Yeah, the only reason I ask is because I know a lot of times these things are, they have a shelf life, these contracts, right? So I'm wondering if this one does, if it's July 1st or.
Mr. LaFleur, did you hear the question?
Yes, I did. Can you hear
Okay,
me now?
you're back. So,
Yeah.
Can you address that, please?
Yeah, with the landfill, I run as normal until the new contract passes, so I have monies available that if something happens to come up, I can pay for it. I kind of hope that answers your question.
His question is, if the budget were not to pass by June 30, would you have any problem retaining this contractor under the terms of this contract, or would they agree to extend beyond the July 1 date?
Yes,
In
they
your
absolutely
opinion?
would. They're our preferred engineers. They've been with us for over 12 years now, 13 years, and they have no problem. They understand the process.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Camo.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve and place on file the request for a one-year renewal required for the continued operation of Cartograph in an amount not to exceed $110,000. Funding will be through Department 122, Information Technology, and 169 Wastewater Fund, 80% to be funded by 54400 Software Licensing / General Fund. And I assume that's supposed to be 20%, not 200%, of the contract to be funded by 71228 Computer Software / Wastewater Fund.
All right, Mr. Misevich, are you here on this?
Yes, I am, Mayor.
Nick Miservich, Chief Information Officer for the City of Nashua. Cartograph is the software that DPW utilizes for their work order management system, life cycle management of their assets, catch basins, sidewalks, stuff like that. Integrates with GIS, and there's also a citizen input portal called C-Click-Fix that citizens can report issues, and it goes directly into the system. That also does keeps track of maintenance for virtually any asset in the system. This is year 3 of a 3-year contract. So, and you know, it would be nice if wastewater did pay the 200%. I wouldn't mind that at all. Any questions?
Anyone? Okay. Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you. I'm actually just restating the obvious, so that we understand 80% comes out of your budget and the 20%, obviously not the 200%, 20% comes out of the DPW budget.
Correct.
That particular thing, okay. And this is common with certain departments that would be using projects like this rather than just funding it all out of your budget. That's
Correct.
what I'm, okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Camo.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve and place on file the request for the annual software assurance renewal required for the continued operation of Infor in an amount not to exceed $292,499.58. Funding will be through Department 122, Information Technology, Fund 54400, Software Licensing / General Fund.
Mr. Misevich?
All right, this is the software that basically runs the city. It's all our finances, all of our human resources information, purchasing process, payroll, etc. So this is the behemoth that runs the city. This item before you is our yearly support, maintenance, licenses, all rolled into one. So there's, I believe the original contract was signed something like 12 years ago when the software was purchased. So this is just the yearly renewal, so we can continue using it.
All right, anyone? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item, communication from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Camo.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve, place on file, and award the 4-year contract for the next component to enhance the city's cybersecurity arsenal to Continental Resources Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $282,054. Funding will be through Department 122, Information Technology, Fund 54407, Software Maintenance, $270,302, and 71228 computer software for $11,752 / general fund.
Mr. Meisovich?
All right, so this is the software that the IT department has been researching since late last year. This product will help protect the city from cybersecurity attacks such as ransomware, which is, you know, a hot item, as all of you are aware. It will detect things not only vertically in the network, but more importantly, laterally in the network, which is something that we do not have currently. So if something does get in, it will spread, and it will spread quickly. So this software will help protect the city from lateral movement.
Alderwoman Clee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two questions here. Why are some of this being funded out of yours and then some out of general funds? Is it just because it's this year, or?
Right, yeah, it's, the software licensing is for this fiscal year, and then the remaining payments also come out of our budget once the budget's approved.
So for this year, because you don't have enough in the budget, it will come out of general funds? Is that
Correct.
Okay.
I can't pay for the whole thing up front.
Right,
I
thank
have
you.
to
And
pay for it.
just one other question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. Is this also tied to the, I want to call it the gotcha, the gotcha software? If we opened up the wrong email or done some phishing or something like that, is that all wrapped up into this particular?
This will complement that and provide additional protection that Mimecast does not provide.
Okay, so they're two different sets. So
Correct, they
Mimecast
are
is the
two
one for
different-
the email.
Yep,
And this one just kind of works with that one.
correct.
I'm getting so much better. I don't get caught anymore.
Yes, you are.
I know, I'm always sitting going, is this real? Is this real? Thank you so much.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
Unfinished business, we have none. Tabled in committee, or we do have something, tabled in committee. Alderman Camone. Move to take from the table.
Sure. I will make a motion to remove from the table the billboard advertising in the amount not to exceed $55,010, funded from account grants 61250, marketing and promotion.
All those in favor of taking from the table, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Now, Cheryl Lindner has some information, I think, in response to Alderman Gouvea's question.
Should we do a motion first to,
To pass it?
yes?
Or to, Alderman Camone?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the contract to create vinyl productions and installation for billboard ad displays in the greater Nashua area for 1 year with Outfront Media Advertising Company in an amount not to exceed $55,010, funding through Department 171 Community Services, Fund 61250, Marketing and Promotion.
All right, you've heard the motion. Ms. Lindner, are you on the Zoom?
I am on Zoom. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so finance team did a little bit of work after Alderman Govea's question, and what we came up with was the $3850 was coming from part of Director Bagley's budget. So it's not a grant match, but there's a portion of this contract that will be paid out of her community services budget for promotions and marketing.
And how much, what is that number?
$3,850.70.
Out of the 55,000?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Lindner? All right, any comments, anything on the motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And thank you, Ms. Lindner.
You're welcome.
Pretty good response time, don't you think?
Yes.
Before the meeting's even over. All right, new business, we have none. New business resolutions, none. New business ordinances, none. Record of expenditures, Alderman Camo.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make a motion that the Finance Committee has complied with the city charter and ordinances pertaining to the record of expenditures for the period from April 29th, 2022 to May 12th, 2022.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. General discussion. Anybody want to generally discuss anything? I don't see that. Okay. Public comment. Any member of the public wish to address the committee?
Hi, Lori Ortolano, 41 Berkeley Street. I just want to point out when you were doing the contract talk for CTV or the public broadcast, it was BRB TV did get a unanimous vote from the Cable Advisory Board for that contract. And I think there was a lot of discussion on it. I know Ernie Jetty originally was concerned and wasn't voting yes, and then he switched upon getting questions answered. So I think as a board, you can at least look that there was a lot of discussion about it. And I know the transition for change is hard on everyone. And hopefully we'll see some of our common programming and expansions to other programming as well. I would like to say that I am a little bit concerned about constitutional and viewpoint issues, the use of television and the broadcasting of government business on a public broadcast station. I think we need to be careful about that. And I believe this city is more restrictive on First Amendment rights on viewpoint issues, because I watched that whole flag issue unfold. And, you know, I supported the Save Women's Sports flag, not because I'm, you know, strongly in the person's camp who presented it, because I have plenty of friends who are Democrats, Republicans, and Independents who supported the message of that flag. And when I hear board members say that it's a transphobic haters flag, it concerns me. I have a friend who's a really awesome Democratic constitutional attorney. I had a really lengthy discussion with them about this, and they said that flag is absolutely not a transphobic hater flag. Totally misinterpreted. But it concerns me because the city's interpretation is horrible, and then it's personalized on the person. When I heard a board member say that this individual wanted to fly the flag, had locked arms with Satan, and her flag belonged with a satanic flag, it really concerned me. I think that's very, very harsh. And I think our ability to recognize viewpoints in this city has been closed way down. And I don't want to see the public access station utilized with that same closure or abused to not present viewpoints that I think are representative of the
30
community.
seconds.
So I'd like you to bear that in mind. And I think I'd like to see policy developed on that. Pretty clear policy on where the lines are. Because the people who run the TV station know those rights well. But the oversight group may cut it right off and do what we're doing with that flag. And I don't support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to address the committee?
Carl Seidel, 39 Pilgrim Circle, Nashua, New Hampshire. I was wondering, is there a contract that's written up, and does that get published before the final conclusion, or is there any conditions in the contract? One of the things I was worried about is continuation from the June 30th finish of the current person and the start of the next business. Is there some agreement? I tried to grab George Russell in the hall and get some statement from him, but he didn't make any. And I think that should be discussed sometime, so we find out.
There is, as part of the agenda here, and there will appear as part of the agenda when this comes before the Board of Aldermen, a proposed contract.
But are there any kind of conditions or stipulations that go along with this as to the content or the...
Well, you're going to have to look at the contract. It is
quite lengthy.
Many pages long. 20 pages.
Is that reviewed? You have the contract there? Because I saw the proposal, but that's not a contract.
There's a 23-page proposed contract. But this is public comment, so I don't want to take up your time. So do you have anything further you'd like to say to the committee?
Well, I just want to know whether we're going to have a continuation. Is there going to be some continuation right there? Is there going to be a gap in the production?
You will have to ask the CATB committee that question.
Okay, but I think before you finalize it, you ought to get that publicized.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to address the committee? Remarks by Alderman. Alderman Clemens.
Yeah, I think the last gentleman, I think, might have been asking if, and I could be wrong, I could misinterpret what you were asking, but I think he was asking if the same programming and that kind of thing is gonna move forward with the new group that we just moved in. And from what Mr. Russell had said up at the podium there, that everybody that has a show is gonna continue to have a show, and that's their intention. So I think if that was your concern, I think it's.
No, that wasn't my concern.
Okay,
I talked to him about that.
okay.
I thought the question was there going to be the production would just stop and, for a period of time? And I think the answer to that is no, but we really.
Correct, yeah, and that
to
was my
clarify.
that's my second point, is that the production, I don't believe, is going to stop, because I think that there's a period of time where the two groups are actually gonna overlap. How they figure that out, I think, is gonna have to be with some guidance with Ctab but I think the idea is that, from everything that I've read and seen, is that it's gonna try to be a seamless transition as much as possible. So hopefully that's what happens. I just want to say I didn't know how I was going to vote coming in tonight. I wasn't sure if I was going to support the new group or if I was going to go the other way. I really wanted to hear from the public. I wanted to hear from all parties, including what we heard from the chairman and Ms. Kleiner. I wanted to hear what my fellow aldermen had to say. So I think we made a good decision. I think it's a hard decision. I've been on this committee in the past where we've made significant changes like that with certain groups. When we did it with before, or I've seen this kind of controversy before. One was with an ambulance group, and so it's hard when you make these kind of changes, but it needs to be looked at from time to time, and we need to kind of look at what we're doing. We can't always just stay static in the status quo. Sometimes we have to take a good hard look at what we're doing and then say, is what we're doing good? Are we on the right track, or do we want to do something different? And so for my vote tonight, I'm going with the recommendation of the Ctab committee, and I think that they did their due diligence, and I was happy to support that. So, thank you.
Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did speak to Chairman Sonato, and I believe he said that there was a 2-month overlap in the transition, and I think the transition was more of the management of it and not necessarily the shows, but we should get that answer for you before we vote on it at Board of Aldermen.
What he told me was that George would start in September, and that Dick was going to stop on June 30th.
Okay, well, the reason I
So I think that's something that I'm worried about.
Right.
Because that's a key time, this time of year.
I completely understand.
Agree.
And I agree with you on that. One of the comments, I think, was even in the letter from the attorney, was that the city would have to bear the cost of the transitioning while we had the overlap. So I think the intention has been all along the overlap, but we do need to get that straightened out. So thank you for bringing it forward. I think that is an important aspect that we do need to look at. The other thing I want to speak to is nothing to do with finance, but an issue in Ward 3 with the Shattuck Street tot lot. You hear me talk about the Shattuck Street tot lot a lot. Usually I'm talking poo. This time I'm not. I'm talking teenagers that are using the park to harass the neighbors, that are using the park to harass young children, who are shouting vulgar racial slurs to children across the street, that I find abhorrent. And I want the community to know that our Nashua PD is on it. They are looking into it. They have spoken to the parents and family members of that. I don't have all the details, and it's really not my place to be asking for all the details, but I know that Chief Rourke will keep me informed so that I can keep the community informed. But the one thing that I'm learning more and more sitting in this seat is that oftentimes people are afraid to come forward to the police because they're afraid of retribution. And the truth is, one of the people that have come forward, she does fear some retribution from those that are doing it. That can't stop us from going forward. The saying, see something, say something is extraordinarily important, especially in this day and age. We have a beautiful park there that the community actually did fundraising to get this park. They helped create the park, and for the community not to be able to use it, for family members with small children not being able to want to use it. I spoke to someone today who brings their grandchildren there and is not bringing their grandchildren there. The city has this tot lot. I also want to put out a second message, and that is, do not engage with these teenagers. Call the Nashua Police Department and call them when it's happening. I appreciate people contacting me. I will reach out to the police the moment that you contact me, but you're doing it in real time, and I'm not getting that message. So my ask to the community is, see something, say something, do not engage. I know one member did engage, and there were threats being thrown back and forth, and we don't need that level of anxiety. There's also a Crime Watch meeting that happens at Temple Beth Abraham every other month, and for any of the residents of not just Ward 3 of Nashua, there are a number of neighborhood Crime Watch meetings, and you can go to the Nashua PD, and they're all listed as to the dates that they will be having them. Get involved with your community. I really think that that is extremely important. And the second thing I want to state is that I will, for Ward 3, I will be sending out my email requesting on 2 parks that I've chosen for cleanup, and one is Sargent Street, and the other one is the Salem Street tot lot. I think both of those need a little extra attention, and as I said at the mayor's coffee this morning, community involvement and pride in our neighborhood is so important. So thank you very much.
Any other remarks by Alderman? Alderwoman Clee.
Yes.
think
Mr.
there's
Mayor,
a-
I would like to, I would
there's a
like motion for
motion that's in order
adjournment,
now?
yes.
What?
I would like to make a motion for adjournment.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, and the meeting of the Finance Committee is adjourned at 8:33 PM.